On February 6th of this year, the Dow Jones Industrial Average crossed 50,000. Now, in massively oversimplified terms, the Dow is a way of tracking the stock market by looking solely at the individual stock prices of 30 large U.S. companies. It's been in use for 130 years as of this May, and it was created by the co-founder of the Wall Street Journal. Now, if you're wondering, why are you talking about that on a Bible podcast video? I am so glad you asked. Hey everyone, I'm Colin, the resident nerd and Bible scholar here at the Bible Uncut and Unfiltered. And the reason that anyone outside of the finance or investment world was commenting on this is thanks to U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. During a House Judiciary Committee oversight hearing on February 11th of this year, it was an opportunity for House members to question the DOJ's handling of the Epstein files. She responded angrily to questions about the Epstein files, saying, and I quote, "The Dow is over 50,000 right now, the S&P at almost 7,000, and the NASDAQ smashing records. American 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That is what we should be talking about." End quote. Now, I want to be very clear before we go any further. We strive to be a purple podcast. I think it's probably relatively clear that I personally lean left, thanks to a Bible that completely wrecked my politics, but I also grew up extremely right-leaning, and I still have many friends who are all across the political spectrum. We generally don't give too much political commentary here, since there are plenty of other good Christian platforms for that, like the New Evangelicals, Progressive Christianity, Diana Butler Bass, lots of good people out there giving good political Christian content. So we usually just focus on ancient Near Eastern context and don't get too much into politics, though of course it does come out sometimes because the Bible is a political book. But we know that people all across the political spectrum look to the Bible for guidance and come away with different conclusions. And we welcome everyone here, so long as they're willing to dialogue with respect. And I think, political leanings aside, we can all agree on at least two things here. Number one, trafficking and abusing underage girls is a crime that we should hold people accountable for, regardless of their political party. And two, Bondi's response is elementary school development level deflection. It is how a child responds to a question about eating cookies from the cookie jar when their mouth is covered in chocolate. A couple days after all this happened, Naked Pastor David Hayward, we had him on the podcast recently, he posted this cartoon with the caption, "That exposed the heart of those with wealth and power. The suffering of their victims fades under the warm glow of more money and power." And that reminded me of something. The church I grew up in has a spiritual abuse problem. Misogyny, racism, gaslighting, straight up lying go unpunished so long as you do enough for the church. One particular staff member has quite the rap sheet of this. And when my wife and I left that church, we committed to leaving honestly, to tell people why and not follow the expected trend of quiet leaving. That's where you hem and haw and make up trivial excuses for why God called you somewhere else, instead of growing the balls to call abuse what it is so you can get your severance paycheck. Well, I was not getting paid for my hours of volunteer work each week, so we risked being honest. We told anyone who asked the truth. And I should have known that wouldn't go well, because before long I was summoned by the current pastor and two deacons to repent of my publicly talking about spiritual and emotional abuse that was being swept under the rug. I went to them with 17 pages of definitions and examples of spiritual abuse, and then 9 pages of testimonies from people within the inner circles of that church showing that this was an ongoing problem for over 10 years. Yes, I know that's a ridiculously me thing to do. And, given that a previous pastor had been friends with Jack Hyles, I kind of imagine these issues had been going on much longer, but that decade was all I had proof for. So after a lengthy back and forth where my disrespect was weighed a greater issue than lying to 250 people on Sunday, one of the deacons spoke up. And he said, "If we remove this staff member, good tithers will leave too." My heart sank. I had known this man for most of my life. He had actually been my Sunday school teacher in my early teen years. I had taught his children in the junior church. I expected more from him. And I called him by name. And I said, you know what? You're a good businessman. And you run a good business. But this is a church. And money cannot be what makes our decisions when it comes to abuse. He didn't respond to that. And neither the other deacon nor the pastor corrected him, because they actually agreed with him. The Dow's over 50,000. The suffering of their victims fades under the warm glow of more money and power. Here's the thing, though. It doesn't have to stay this way. Not in that church, not in yours, not in the capital C church at large. Systems don't change because they get better PR. They change when the people inside them decide that truth matters more than comfort, that people matter more than performance. You like that alliteration there for the Baptists in the crowd? That doing what's right matters more than keeping everything running smoothly. And that kind of change is really costly, but it's also contagious. Because every time someone chooses honesty over silence, every time someone protects a person instead of protecting a system, it creates the space for others to do the same. And that's how things actually begin to change. So I think the real invitation here isn't just to critique broken systems. It's to become the kind of people who refuse to look away when it matters most.